This video is going to show you how to set up an online tracking form for tracking your students' habits of work. So the first thing you'll want to do is go to tinyurl.com/habitsofworktracker. This will open up the shared document. So then you'll need to go to File, Make a Copy to make your own copy in your own drive. All right, so once you have your own document, what you'll want to do is set it up for the students in your own class. So I have it set up for these sample students A, B, C, and D, but you'll want to populate this list with your students in your classes. The easiest way to do that is to export a roster through PowerSchool into Excel, and then you can just copy and paste the names right over into the Google Sheet. So down here on the bottom, you'll see I have it listed as period 1 class. So if you right click, and then you can duplicate this, and then you can make as many classes as you need with all the students in the right spot. All right, so we'll go back here. So over here where it says date, instead of writing the actual date, I just like to number it by the instance. So let's say that date number 1 was the time when I sat down and put in all my students' scores on like November 10th. So up here, I'm just going to record that the number 1 for date means that I did it on November 10th. So you want to, of course, you'll probably have more students than this. I'll show you how to copy and paste easily. So let's say I have this many students. Instead of writing the number 1, I can just click on the bottom cell and I can grab this little blue box that shows up and just drag it down. And then over here, these are my drop downs. So when I click on the arrow, it will show me my choices for how to assess on each category. So I'm going to do the same drag and drop all the way down to meet the number of students that I have in my class. So you just want to fill that out depending on how many students you have. So I'm going to go backwards and just stick with my 4 students for now. So let's say that it's November 10th and I have a minute to sit down and put my students' scores in. So this could be just for today. This could be from the last week or the last couple of weeks, but the date I'm sitting down to do it is November 10th. So I'll want to go down through each and enter in their scores. So over here is the key for what each number stands for. So typically I like to start all my students on a 3, and then if they go above and beyond, they get a 4, and if they are going lower than that, they either get a 2 or a 1. So I'm going to start by choosing a 3, and then I'm going to drag this box down so that everybody starts out with a 3. And you can also use the keyboard to type. You don't need to use the drop down. And let's say the student A is doing really well, so they have a couple 4s, but student C is struggling in a couple areas. Great. So there's November 10th. Date is done. I go on to my teaching. And let's see, I have another minute to sit down and do my scores on a second date, which I will say is on December 4th. So date number 2 is December 4th. So what I'll need to do is take my student roster. So I will take all of them and I will copy and paste their names right below the first names. And then I will want to drag my date down to cover that list of students. And I'll want to drag down, copy and paste all my 3s again, if that's what you're doing. And then I can again go in and let's say that student A is still doing really well. So student A had a great couple of weeks these last weeks. Maybe they're outstanding in everything. Student C has gone down a bit. I'll go through and do my assessment. Another thing you can do while you're assessing the students is add a note. So let's say that student A for ownership, I'm going to right click here and go to insert notes. And let's say that they stayed after school to do test corrections. Okay. So then you'll know there's a note there because there's this little black corner filled in. And then if I hover over there, it will pop up with a note. So that's really nice for parent conferences and for conferencing with students. So you have some specific data about why they got the habits of work score that they did. So I'm going to go ahead and do this one more time for a third date. So again, I'm going to copy and paste my roster, and then this is date number 3. This was December 10th. So I'm going to make it autofill with satisfactory. And then again, I'm going to go through and assess. Okay, so now let's say it's the end of the quarter and I want to go through and enter my grades in for report cards. So the first thing I need to do is sort the sheet so that all the students are next to each other instead of spread out by alphabetical by roster. So I'm going to highlight all of the student scores. So I'm going to click on row 3, and then I'm going to hold down the shift key and click on row 14. So it will highlight all of the student scores, but it will leave my headers alone. And then I'm going to go to data, sort range, and I want to sort it by column C, which is the student's last name. So now you'll see what happens is student A is right next to the other scores for student A. It's just the 3 dates. So these are student A's scores on date number 1. These were student A's scores on date number 2, and these were student A's scores on date number 3, and so on. So you could just do this holistically, just looking at student A, I can tell that they did really well in general for habits of work, versus student C seems to struggle a little bit more right in here. So you can just look at it that way. Because you're using technology though, there is the capability for it to give you a mathematical average, which gives you a little bit more data. So the way I'll do this is I'm going to start with student A. So I'm going to look at student A's first row, and that's where I'm going to keep their average data. So I'm going to click right here, and first I'm going to figure out what their average score is for the quarter for active learning. So I'll go up to the function key here, and I will select average, and then I want to highlight all of student A's active learning scores for the quarter, which are these 3 cells, and then I'm going to hit enter, and predictably it's telling me that the average is a 4. So next I'm going to do the respect. So again, I'm going to find the average. I'm going to highlight the 3 scores for respect and hit enter. So that's telling me their score for respect for the quarter was a 3.6 average. So based on my judgment, I could decide to give them either an outstanding or a satisfactory. And then I'll do the same for collaboration. So for collaboration, still between satisfactory and outstanding, a little closer to satisfactory. So depending on what my threshold would be, I might give them either one of those scores. And then I'm going to do it for ownership. For student A's 3 scores for ownership, hit enter. And I got a 4 average for ownership. All right, so I don't have to do that whole process for all the students. What I just need to do is highlight these 4 cells, which has the functions and the formulas already in it. And then I'm going to copy them. So now I'm going to go down to student B. So this is student B's first row right here. So I'm going to click right here, which is right next to student B's first row of data. And I'm going to paste those 4 formula cells, and it's going to automatically give me my averages. So you can see that student B actually had all 3s, so they predictably have a 3 average for every category. And then I'm going to just keep going. So here's student C's first row. So again, I'm going to paste. So you'll see that student C had a pretty solid satisfactory for active learning. They were between unsatisfactory and needs improvement on respect. Same with collaboration, and between needs improvement and satisfactory for ownership. And then I'll do the last for student D. Okay, so there's all my averages, so I can use those now to input my grades on report cards. If you have any questions, here's my email address up here, sgregory@revierek12.org.